Welcome to the forensic detailing channel. So I'm going to do like a live type video on the new potato cam, but this potato is like better than my main camera over there. This potato is the dog's. What am I doing? So I'm cutting the front of the car at the moment. I've got to cut, have I cut the wing? I haven't cut this wing, no. So I've got to cut the rest of the front bumper, this section here, and I've cut across the top, and I've got to cut around there with the mini polisher down that bottom section, which is going to be a bit fiddly. And I've got to cut the wing. And I thought I'd just bring you in for a live video. You know, I've said this many times. I think when you're polishing a car, forgive all the sniffing, I've just got the sniffs. When you're polishing a car, I think it's just a process. You're putting it through a sausage making machine. So you do your wash properly. You know, you really take the time, wash it a couple of times, because you can still leave dirt in there. You can leave dirt underneath. I mean, we've all done it, including me, where you've washed it and you've brought it in and there's still dirt there. You know, really take the time to try and dig out and get the rubbers kind of squeaky clean. I've still got a bit of polish digging to do actually, but it's not too bad. These will be dressed and they'll look better once they're dressed. It will get rid of the patchiness. You know, I'll wipe over them with some IPA. There's all these little finishing jobs. And take the time to clay the car properly. Sounds really obvious, doesn't it? But like you sort of like always want to get it done, and I want to get it done, and it's like you can speed up. That's the biggest enemy, speeding up. So just try and be consistent, you know, when you're doing it. Now, then when you start polishing your car, again, it's the same thing. You start off machining it and you do like really good first set, and then you can speed up after a while. So you just want to sort of like be a robot and be robotic. This bonnet will be, believe it or not, needs finishing. The camera won't pick up. You know, it looked great on camera, but it needs finishing. You can probably actually just see a bit of compounding haze and stuff like that. It's aftermarket soft black paint. So once I finished it out, I should have a nice consistent, you know, really good finish actually. Now this paintwork down here, what have I just dropped? No, never mind. This paintwork down here, this has been repainted, and it's decent actually, to be fair. I've cut most of the stuff out of it, you know, to a good standard. The front bumper tends to get mangled, doesn't it? This isn't too badly in too bad a condition. There's some deeper scratches in there and some little tiny like chips that you probably can't see like there on camera, but generally pretty good. So let's just talk through doing a kind of live set. So I'm using this stuff, and when I show you it live, you get a different feel for everything. Like, people don't want to tune into the live videos and stuff, you know, where it's all raw, but you get a real good feel for it. So I've dolloped some of this stuff out onto the pad. Let's just put this down somewhere where you can see. Just get my leg out of the way. Pan the camera out. Yeah, and you get a good view, yeah, you can see. So let's just bring it up a little bit. Yeah, you can see what I'm doing. So always, you could use a 3-inch mini on this, but it's quite a nice piece. And if I can polish it with the XFE, then I like to, because it just gets into it a little bit more. When you've got loads of polish on and you dab it down, sometimes it can be a good idea to go to the far corner and dab out, because you get diminishing polish everywhere you go. So if you put your corners out first, you get a better amount of polish rather than loads in one corner, which is just a little thing that I'm just doing more and more. And then you just want to dab out that film. You can see as I'm dabbing, I get less and less. And then you just want to work that film so you're ready to actually, you know, on speed 1, so you're ready to start cutting. So, I've got the polisher the wrong way around, but never mind. Let's start with it. So we'll just work that film out. And there we've got decent film now, so that just stops us splattering. Like, if you've got a nice film, you're not going to splatter. If you just go straight in polishing, you've got all your polish there and you're dragging it around. So it gives us a good film. I'm going to need to change hands, aren't I? It's really awkward. I'm going to sit on the floor just so you can get a better thing. You can get a better view. I can actually do a better job, I think. It's really awkward. I'd really want to have my derriere a bit closer to the camera, but never mind. So I've got tape over the plastic trim here, got tape over the lights there in that section. I can get into there with a cloth and wipe that, so that's fine. So now I'm going to crank the speed up to speed 5. Just let the polisher have 4 good passes over this, and that will do everything I need it to do. Trying to press her in a little bit. Missed that bit. Okay, then we do it up and down. Try to push in. Just going to adjust my body position, guys. Yeah, that's better. Oh, you won't be able to see. Really want to get the edge. The polish is broken down now, it's gone like translucent. So I'm not going to be doing as much cutting. I'm speeding up a little bit. That was the most horrible body position to polish, but that's had a good cut now. So what I like to also show is the buff. Let's get back on the stool and get them to touching so you can see the buff. So the polish has gone like oily and thin. If you do a shorter set with this product and you don't get that breakdown, that's where you get the cloudiness. So I think I went over a little kind of just a little deeper area where I wasn't happy with the cutting. Just did like a very short set. Whereas if you wait for the breakdown, you'll get a better finish. But I'm finishing out anyway. And I think with it, where is it? I think with an extra cut compound like this, I think really you need to finish it out with a fine polish to get that final pop. Although really, you could single stage with it. What's really nice is I haven't got any dust anywhere, and you've seen me overwork it. Well, not overwork it, 4 passes, you know, quite slow. And I'm not going to get any more dust. You know, I'm at the end of each set, just brush out the polisher, and then this is really cool. Look at the wipe down. Just nice and easy. It's nice. It's just nice to wipe off as well, which is quite important. Let's just give that a flip. So we go to another side and just hit that again. And that's wiped down. And hopefully, yeah, you can see there with the camera that we've got a good level of finish. I mean, it probably looks absolutely great, doesn't it? Because it is pretty good. There are some scratches though. If I look around, there's a little cluster there, so that probably needs a little bit more cutting across there. You probably can't see them with the camera. They might be under the paint, but anyway, that's not acceptable. So I need to just work that before I go to the finish. But yeah, I haven't polished this. It's another day, that's why but I mean, this looks pretty damn good. A few scratches. Camera doesn't pick up the scratches too well. So yeah, that's all we're really doing. So I've got to now cut those awkward bits. Should really use the 1-inch pad really, because of getting down there. It's a small area, probably 1 inch would be more suitable. And then after that, let's cut the wing first, because I've got the big polisher out. Cut the wing and then go over it with the GYEON primer on a soft white pad, and then just give it a final wipe down with a soft wipe rather than the polish wipe that I'm using. Although you could use a polish wipe, they're both soft. Yeah, so that's the name of the game. And just ploughing on. You just keep going, don't you? You know, like I said, I want to do this once, and I want to do a reasonable job. I want the car to sort of look nice and shiny and wet, you know, not plastered and swirls. It's still a 20-year-old car, so it's not a show car, but it'll just be nice. Yeah, you can see that compound haze. Once it's all finished out, it'll be lovely. And then once I've done that work, the cool thing about using the primer is what I'll probably do is just give the car a wipe down with GYEON prep over there, and then go in with the primer, and you know, the primer will I'll buff it and it will stay on there for 24 hours and cure, and then I can coat straight on top without having to take the car out and wash it all down, degrease it, you know. So that's really good. Yeah, really enjoying the process. Some other really important things after every set, just take your brush, because this isn't just polish, this is polished mixed in with paint, you know, clear coat, and it will just cake up and cake up and cake up after every set. So if you just, at the end of each set, it doesn't take a second to do, just take your brush and just fire this up. See it coming off, don't you? And that just frees up all of that horrible stuff. You might want to do it a little bit further away from the car, although it's more like chunks that are falling out rather than dust going everywhere, which is nice. This compound is quite quite easy to use. You know, it's a nice easy polish, and it also, when you dunk these in water and flush them out, this compound will come all out of the pad. You won't have any kind of dusting or anything next time, which is good. So yeah, that's it. How am I finding using cordless tools, guys? Well, for this setup I've got here, it's absolutely brilliant. You know, I've always got a battery ready to go. I only really need 2 batteries and I can round robin, but I've got so many I could charge 3, but I use these little mini ones as well when I'm polishing with this. And I'll round robin on the Rupes as well, and it means I can polish with no cables like dangling on your shoulder and underneath the trolley and treading on them, and they're curling, and you know, the cables are a pain. And both these tools, the XCE and the Rupes, they do have, I think this machine, I've been using it sort of down on speed 3 to 4 because it's really powerful. And if you crank it up to speed 5, you'll work the polish really hard, and you're going 10 to the dozen on the machine. So your risks of kind of slinging are higher. Your risks of putting heat and energy into the pad, and the pad softening, it will soften down quicker. So you just control everything, set your speed so that it doesn't stall out, and you're not really getting hot. You know, you're not cooking the pads and overworking the pads, and just take your time a little bit. And that is it. Make sure you do, when you wipe down, you do a good wipe down to get all the polish off, and tape up where you need to tape up. You know, it's a bit of a pain putting tape down. When I'm polishing this, I'll put this kind of fender defender in the way, so I don't, when I'm near the edge, I won't sling onto the wipers and the glass and stuff like that. And when I'm going over to this section eventually, definitely need to tape these rubbers up, because there's already polish in there. Well, no, it's just dust, but there is some polish from probably where it's been hand polished or whatever. So I need to tape those up. I could probably get away with not taping those, but I think you would. They sit a little bit lower than the panels, so you might be all right, but those would really probably need to be taped as well. So you need to tape both of those so that you can really just polish without worrying about hitting the rubbers. If you hit the rubbers, you'll get all black stuff in your pad and grit from the edges, stuff like that. So yeah, you just need to kind of manage it a little bit. It's quite a small car, this, and it's relatively easy to polish and work on. It does have non-OEM paint, and there's a big difference actually. The non-OEM paint tends to be softer and more of a pain, and if it's been repainted, you can usually find signs of it. It's just the nature of the beast. There's some prep marks up there that I can't get out. There was a load of them, like pigtails and sanding lines, and it's under the paint. You can improve it slightly, but you can only go at it so much. I actually did a little tiny bit of wet sanding, but it will never get them all out because they're prepped. You know, they're under the primer, or they're under the paintwork basically. So like the whole paint sinks into them, and then the clear coat sinks into the paint, and then what you see is a softer kind of version of the scratch that's underneath. And you can level slightly when you wet sand and polish on it, because you're still going to level a little bit, but you can never guarantee to fully get out prep marks that are under the paint. That's okay. Yeah, so that's the idea, guys. What are these pads like? Well, I'm using the extra heavy cutting pads because they're not too aggressive. They're not overly coarse. They're not overly stiff. Once you've worked them a few times and got a bit of heat into them, they're good, and they're doing the job. With the extra cut compound and just those nice, steady, consistent sets, it's doing a really good job. So you only need to change something if it's not, if I was getting machine wiring and the paint was really soft, it was fiddly, then I could perhaps step down and cut with the reds. You know, you could step everything down. You could, if it's really soft, you could finish out with the whites. If it's really hard, then you could cut with the purple and finish out with the blues, you know. So yeah, you sort of, you use them, and if you're getting any problems, then you move, you try things. If it's all working good, then you just carry on. That's really what the test set was about. So the test set told me that I can cut. You can see the, if I get the light, the test set told me that I can cut with the purple pads on this paint, not introduce machine wiring, and that's been finished with GYEON primer as well. So my end results are going to look like that, which is pretty good, isn't it? Look, you can even see from the camera, it's pretty good. And that soft light seems to show the scratches even better, because you can see them when you go over here. And that's, most of that's clay marring, but under that clay marring are deeper scratches from, you know, that were there before, but that comes straight out the clay marring. And then you sort of see after your cutting set, if you're happy with the level. What the trick, the thing not to fall into is after you've done your cutting set, you see like a scratch there, for example, and think, right, I must take that one scratch out, because it could be really deep. And you know if you can take it out or not after a while. You know, if you can feel it, you ain't taking it out. You know, if you can really feel it. If you're not sure, don't try. What you're looking for though is after your cutting set is for little patches of swirls where you've missed. You might have gone over an area and the pad was like leaning back and it didn't get into this corner, and you might see after you've done your cutting set like an area here of little fine scratches, and then that is where you've missed it on the cutting path. So you need to go back and cut that bit properly. So it's not a case of perfecting the car, it's just a case of doing your cutting set well, you know, and just so picking your area and then doing your passes over it and making sure you hit every bit, making sure you get a good chunk of overlap, like 50% or whatever, a good chunk of overlap, because the polisher doesn't all polish the same way as well. If you're using a dual action polisher, you know, the middle of the pad tends to bulge out and the ends tend to thin out, so you've got like a footprint where you're really polishing well, and then beyond that you might think you're polishing but you're not. And the dual actions, the free spinning dual actions, are not so good at leaning over. If you try and lean over, you'll kill the spin and you'll just be doing tiny little circles, whereas the forced rotation is kind of different. You know, what the forced rotation does is it oscillates very rapidly, so it's spinning quite quickly, but the rotation is slow compared to the oscillation. So you get like the spider's web like this, where it's going like this consistently, and you can't stall that. So if you're polishing there and you get the pad down on it, then it will polish it. So I find when I use the dual action polisher, sometimes it's much more prone for me when you've got loads of swirls and you've done a cutting set and you wipe down, it's much more prone to leaving little patches of swirls, even down the channels where you've kind of might have stretched the overlap too much. So I just find I get a more consistent cut with the XCE forced rotation, and I love it. It's really, forced rotation is the way to go. If you don't have forced rotation minis, I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if the dynamics work quite as well. But those little minis are bloody aggressive, so that kind of counters that, and they're smaller, so you can edge up with them a little bit better. So yeah, it's just whatever you like using. The XCE, you know, you'll feel it on the panel a little bit more, but it's a very small difference between using a forced rotation and normal dual action, really, and how they feel. You get used to how the XCE feels very, very rapidly, and after a while it just feels really good. It's not like a rotary where it's going to walk you if you get the angle wrong, or you come in at the panel and it suddenly pulls you down. You know, the rotary can be a pain. It's you know, you've got to use it all the time, and then you start getting a feel for it. But it's still a pain, and it still slings, you know, and it's still, you run the risks of introducing more heat with the rotary, but the rotary can be quite handy if you just use it slowly. But no, the XCE is the one I like using. So there we go. Yeah, I'm really pleased like with that. And what I have to do is I have to just work to that standard on every bit of the car. And it's quite easy to do for all of this and all of this. Very difficult to work to that standard on that, because it's hard to polish, and really you could argue you should use a 1-inch pad and just work in 3 sections and really take your time. But the thing with these skirts that you hear me saying is the underside of the skirt, the paintwork underneath, gets smashed and ground up anyway. So I do tend to just give that a cut, you know, with a 3-inch, and just work my way along it and then finish it out. But you could argue, you know, if you had the lifter and it was up there and you were working on it, and you could spend a lot of time just doing the skirt. But it's whatever standard you want to work to. I just want to do the best job I can do within the time frames that meet what I'm happy with. So when I finish polishing the car, I think, you know what, John, you've done it properly. You've done your best. You've not bodged it, and you know, you've given it a good shot. So that's my aim. That's all my aim for this. Not perfection, but just do it properly. And then I can't wait. You know, spring is coming now. When the blossom comes out on this tree, I know the good times, the summer is coming. That's the sign for me, so it's really good. So I'm really looking forward to getting the car out. So that was just a quick update, or a long update, for the Forensics Detailing Unplugged channel, I guess. I will come back in and do another video like this when we're ready to coat, and we'll talk about coatings and you know, all that sort of stuff. No, I don't tend to use coatings. Why don't I tend to use coatings? Because I think I like buffing on the car. Like, I like applying a sealant or an AOI, like the Rupes Advanced, which is brilliant. And I love giving it that buff and that white, because that gives you the real clarity. The danger is you keep building up protection every time you wash it. You spray something on, then next week spray something on, spray something on, spray something on, spray something on. You build up all these films, and the actual crystal best finish you can ever get in your car, that crystal clear thing, is after you've polished and done that sort of dry polish buff. I find that's when your car's looking at its best. The reason I want to coat this car is I've now got 3 cars, and I don't want to be polishing on this so much. So I'm going to put the coating on it to protect what I've done, and just use minimally, you know, the protection products. So maybe every now and then I'll use a little bit of wet coat. I'll have GYEON Cure that I'll put on after I've done the coating, talk about that. And then I'll probably just use the normal GYEON detailer, the blue one there, or the ceramic one, whichever, doesn't really matter. But I will maintain these with GYEON products, unless I've got to do a video and I need a car to demo it on. But no, I want to maintain the Moz properly, and just, you know, I want the car to be just like a nice looking car with a nice finish with a ceramic coating on it, and that's it. So there we go. Yeah, I'll probably be polishing it again in 2 days. He's polishing his car again. No, that's not the name of the game. The name of the game is to polish it once, and then ideally never again. These microfiber cloths from GYEON, these polish wipes, they're all really high quality, all nice and soft. I'm just remembering, that's the one that I've used, so that's all the sides have been used on that one. This is the one I'm using right now, which is good. I've shown you the soft wipes. They're even fluffier, you know, they're the sort of open pile cloths that are very soft, so they're more, probably better for I don't know though. Probably sometimes if you've got a really sticky compound that's hard to buff, then getting a slightly shallower cloth is probably better. But you could use the soft wipes with this compound. From what I've seen, no problems at all. It worked fine. So it'd just be your choice really. What do you prefer between the soft wipe and the polish wipe? But they're both very soft cloths. Yeah, so these seem to be doing a good job. That's it, guys. So don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you soon on the Unplugged channel. Bye for now.